Welcome back to the channel, folks. This is our spoiler discussion for Alien Romulus. Yes, directed by Fede Alvarez. Just released this Friday. Me and Paul Tams have both seen it. If you want a more straightforward review, no spoilers, we've both got respective videos up on our channel, so go and check them out if you have not seen it yet. But this is full spoilers from here on out, so please, if you haven't seen it, please click off the video. Or don't if you're not bothered about spoilers. But anyway, Paul, the day finally arrived this Friday. We both got a chance to see it. Opening day. The hype levels for this film has been through the bloody roof. We're both fans of this director. I will admit, though, like when I've looked back through his back catalogue, he doesn't have that much.
It's like 4 films.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to see that he'd directed the, is it a remake or sequel to, I think it's called The Girl with the Spider's Web. I am going to check that out because it's the only film from his catalogue that I haven't seen. But after seeing Romulus, mate, I'm going to be checking all of his material out. But anyway, my spoiler quick thoughts on this film. Guys, I bloody loved it. I absolutely loved it. I came out the cinema totally alleviated. To me, this was a gigantic love letter to the entire Alien franchise, in my opinion. We've been sort of led on down this road of like, all right, guys, so check Alien out and check Aliens out. But really, you want to be checking the entire franchise out, people. That was a nice little surprise. But yeah, overall thoughts on this film, I absolutely loved it. It's definitely got some problems. There was a few callbacks that I found pretty egregious in this film. And also, there was a few moments that I found pretty annoying when it came to our characters. My main big grievance with this film is the characters. But overall, I absolutely loved it. Opening was awesome. Got some gnarly sequences with the face huggers. We've got an android here who's the most interesting part of the film. But yeah, the third act comes, and this seems to be the most divisive thing on the internet right now. And my God, I absolutely loved it. I cannot lie. I loved it the moment I come out the cinema. You were the first person who I spoke to, Paul, when I come out the cinema. And when you text back saying, yeah, I don't know about that, I was like, no! What's happening? But anyway, Paul, before we get into the third act, good and proper, because I know your feelings might have changed by now. You have seen it twice, but Paul, Alien Romulus, quick thoughts, my friend.
Yeah, man. Like you said there, man. My hype levels through the roof. Fede Alvarez, massive fan of his work. His Evil Dead remake still is my favorite horror movie for the last 10, now 11 years. I just love what he did with that film and put his own stamp on it in his own twisted way. Watched it numerous times. Love the Evil Dead remake. So I was super excited to see what he could do in the world of Alien. It being sandwiched between the first and second, just like, of course, they're the two big tentpole films in the franchise. Put me back in that world. Cool. He was just saying all the right things in interviews, like using practical effects. He's a massive fan of the franchise. He wanted to do it justice. Went to see it opening night, and I really liked it. Didn't love it. We'll get to it. But I really enjoyed it. It gave me everything I want as a fan of Alien. People are out there saying it's just the greatest hits. I like greatest hits albums, man. If I'm a fan of a band, I like to listen to greatest hits albums because I want all the best parts of that in one thing. And this film did it in spades. Couple of callbacks. In fact, now I've seen it the second time. The only one callback I didn't like is that one line that one character says that calls back to Aliens, and didn't work for me the first time round. Doesn't work for me the second time around. At some point, I hope there's someone out there who uploads the movie and just takes that line out, and this movie will go up a bit. The rest of the callbacks, though, in terms of sound effects and things in the background, I was all for. Like I said in my review, I was just doing the Leonardo DiCaprio thing, just like, oh, there's that. Yep. I like it when films do this. Some people don't like it. If I'm a big fan of a franchise, I want to be reminded that I'm in the world of that franchise. And again, did it in spades. Really liked it. We'll get into spoilers, though, because I do have a few problems with it. Another bit that I really still dislike is that CGI character. Just not the fact that character's in the movie, just how they pulled it off. It just, compared to how the rest of the movie, the movie is spellbindingly beautiful. The practical effects, the CGI, it just all blends so well, and you don't know what's CGI and what's not. It's done. It's like Nolan Interstellar. I'm not even over exaggerating that. It was just flawless CGI, and I couldn't tell what was practical and what wasn't in some points, especially with the ships and stuff like that. But this one bit in it pulls you out the movie, man. But we'll get into it. But overall, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there on. So there's a returning character. Let's get into it, Paul. Let's dart all over the place here. It's not going to be a very constructive through line review, this, folks. So bear with us. Right, returning character comes back. We've got Ash from the first Alien movie, who is now called Rook. It's not the same synthetic from the first Alien movie. It's just a similar type model, if I'm correct there. Obviously, we saw in Prometheus and Covenant, we have Michael Fassbender playing two synthetics there, two different models. So it's a similar sort of situation to that.
But they come off the assembly line.
Yeah, basically. But this isn't Ash. Do you know what I mean? I've already seen a few reviews out there saying, Ash returns. It's like, no, it's not that. It's a different character, Rook. And you made a great observation as well when we were messaging. And I was looking at it for a second. I was like, oh yeah, I don't play chess. But what were you saying, Paul, about this?
You've got his character name's Rook, and then you've got Bishop. I was like, oh, the chess pieces. Like, I didn't put it together. Someone pointed out for me. I didn't notice it. I was like, oh shit, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I'm a draft sort of guy, not chess. But the problem we've got here, right, is that my problem isn't that they've got a character returning. I don't mind that. It's just the fact that it's Ian Holmes, who obviously isn't with us anymore. Now, there's some speculation online that this is AI, but it says in the credits that they actually got someone just to recapture Ian Holmes' voice. Now, I call bullshit on that. I think that is 100% AI, and I wasn't here for it at all. The uncanny valley look that Disney is so focused on using needs to get in the bloody bin. I think it didn't look great here at all. Ash/Rook in this film is basically our villain of this movie. He's like the sort of main antagonist here, which was a total surprise for me, definitely. But it's keeping in spirit with the android's motivations throughout the entire franchise. David's a little bit of a special one. He's got his own sort of agenda, which I think that's why it makes him such an interesting character. But keeping on the topic of androids and synthetics, Paul, for me, I think his name is, David Johnson, who plays Andy. For me, Paul, this is the best character in the film, without a doubt. Now, Andy has a couple of different tempos in this film that he plays. So I think something that we've never seen in the Alien franchise, you might be able to correct me there, Paul, but we've never seen one get a reboot before, then actually his personality then changes slightly, doesn't he? So I thought that particular sequence when he was getting the reboot and his eyes go at the back of his head and he snaps back into it, and now he's got a ulterior sort of motive. He's more of a Wayland company man at this point. Most interesting character in the entire film for me, Paul. What did you think about Andy, this new synthetic that we've got in this film?
Yeah, I thought it was great. I like what they did with it. Obviously, we've had Ash, we've had Bishop, the bad android and the good android. This was a blend of them both. He played how he was snapping. He does it a couple of times in the film. I was snapping from. Yeah. He was almost playing at the start, and I feel like this is what they were going for. Like somebody, it's sort of like a what's the word I'm looking for? He plays like a character with disabilities or maybe like special needs sort of thing, and that I feel like that's what they were trying to emulate in like android form, and he pulled that off. Wonderfully, because you felt really sympathetic for him. Sympathetic for him.
Yeah. We'll leave that.
And then some of the characters in it are sort of bullying him because they don't like androids and stuff like that, which we've seen in the franchise before. And then as soon as he reprograms into sort of the more Weyland-Yutani synthetic, where he's sort of a company man and he's doing the prime directives that the company wants. The switch that the actor makes, David Johnson, is brilliant, because he comes off then as sort of like cold and calculated, and he's sort of like a Terminator. He's just like, he just knows exactly what he needs to do. David Johnson, it was brilliant in this movie. I'll be checking out this guy going forward, because he, like you said, he is the best part of the film, character-wise, without a doubt. It was great. I really liked his relationship with Kaylee Spaney's character, Rain, in it. I think their dynamic, their overarching story was the sort of crux of the film. The rest of the characters, I'm not going to say cannon fodder, because I know a lot of people say they weren't very memorable, and I get that. Like I said to my friend the other day, he was like, the characters weren't memorable. And did you remember all the characters' names in Alien when you watched that for the first time? It's only because you've watched that film so many times that you get to know the characters and they start to become sort of family. Like you've watched that film over and over, and you know them inside out. First time around when you watch a film, not all the time, but sometimes you walk out like, I can't remember the character names. And I didn't the first time round. Second, because I've done a bit more sort of research on the film, and the second time round I was picking it up more, and I was picking up more sort of character traits with some of the other characters. I started to really enjoy their dynamic together. But it's not the greatest ensemble cast in an Alien movie. Let's just put that out there right now. But the two main ones, Rain, Andy, love their dynamic together.
The intro of this film, it starts off dead quiet. No one in space can hear you scream.
I thought my cinema was broke.
Right. Well, funnily enough, my brother, who was sat next to me in the time, he leaned over and he went, "Is this all right? Is this right?" And I was like,
"Turn it up."
Yeah, no, this is right. Everybody eating like the crisps and nachos suddenly just went, "Oh shit, I'll wait a little bit." Paul, I absolutely loved this opening. It very much reminded me of. Now, I'm not a massive Star Wars fan, but I know primarily all of them open up in space, and you cut to space, and it's normally a ship doing some sort of docking or business like that. And you've got the John Williams score in the background. Very much resembled a John Williams score in this opening, in the way it's dead silent. So it opens up with basically Weyland coming in contact with the destruction of the Nostromo ship from the first Alien film. Mate, I fucking loved all that.
I loved it. When you seen the name on it, it's like, oh, yes.
Yeah. I was like already nudging my brother at that point. Bloody hell. It really gives you a look into Weyland, the corporation and the company, without saying anything. I love when they capture sort of like the alien that's been cocooned, fossilized, basically. So it's been floating out into space for like 20 years at this point as well, because that's what they say. It's 20 years after that explosion. One thing I picked up on, and I might be reaching to the high heavens here, but this Weyland ship that ends up grabbing the big chap from Alien 1, when it flies into the little docking area and it goes through the red sort of scanner thing, I was like, you have seen that from Predator before, you know? Predator ship, I was like, oof, my God, are we saying something there? But anyway, I absolutely love this opening. Like, it just made the Weyland Corporation look like absolute villains at the start of this film as well, with the way it's all like wet and minging inside the ship and whatnot. Very different look.
And they're all in them like clouded like hazmat suits, aren't they? Like you don't see them or anything. Like they're like the Empire for the alien world, man.
Totally. Like honestly, this whole first sort of 20 minutes of this film was reminding me of the best part of Star Wars, in my opinion. And then we later move on to this a brilliant scene, in my opinion. And all it is Kaylee Spaney and Andy on their way to like clock in their hours. But when you see the colony in full activation mode here, because one thing, is so prevalent in this franchise is colonies, yet we don't see a lot of them in active mode. So we see it at the start of Aliens, but that is the extended cut of Aliens that we see the colony. So I loved this opening. I love the bit with the Nostromo, the Weyland capturing Big Chap, and we move into Kaylee Spaney and Andy going to clock in their hours. And it's just the world building. The world building aspect of this whole section, I absolutely loved. You can see the thing that makes them be able to breathe on this planet in the background. Just Really, really awesome stuff. Really well populated, loads of extras in this scene. Just a fantastic opening, in my opinion. But Paul, what did we think about that opening and the lead into the basically Kaylee Spaney finding out that she's not going to be able to leave this planet and has to do a few more hours?
Well, I think it's worth noting that you and me were both spoilt on this film a few months ago, where you got wind that Big Chap was sort of the crux of how it sort of comes to be that the alien comes back, and you messaged me saying, "I've just read a spoiler, but it's made me more." You read it, but it's made me more excited for the movie. And I went, "Don't tell me, don't tell me." And then I went, "Oh man, just tell me." He said, "If you know, I want to know." So you told me, and it did. It made me more excited because it. And I don't think I would have been bothered about that if I was told that in sort of the marketing, because it's a good way of bridging the gap. You know what I mean? It is set between the first two films, and it does bridge the gap wonderfully. That start. I was just right in straight away. I was like, "Oh yeah!" It's like I love what they're doing straight away. Straight as soon as the film started, I was like, I love where they're going here. Yeah, the Weyland-Yutani, they are sort of the puppet masters in the background. You never really see them. You don't know what, well, you know what they're up to, but they sort of just come in, get what they want, go out, and I was just all for it. Loved the world building on the planet they're on, the colonized planet. Like you said, we haven't seen this really in alien movies before. We hear about it, we don't see it fully explored. It doesn't fully explore it here, but it does enough where you're like, oh, so this is what it looks like, you know, down on these colonized planets. It's like the workforce, people are sort of they're on a planet that has no sunlight. It's all dark and dingy. You've got the Weyland logo all over the place, so it's very corporate. All the characters are sort of just downtrodden. They talk a bit about them exploring mines, and those are the workers in mines. And you see that one character has the bird in the cage, and Kaylee Spaney looks at it as if like, I don't want to be that bird in this cage. I want off this planet. I thought that was a nice little thing in the film. Yeah, I loved it. Loved this opening. It was fantastic. It really locked me into the world, back into the world of Alien again. And even the introduction to the characters. Now, I've seen a lot of people say they don't like the characters in it because they're young. And I see him Fede even come out, you know, he said it in an interview that his idea was for a younger cast is in that special edition scene in Aliens where you see them on the bikes and that, and the kids. He's like, I wonder what they're like when they hit their teens and they're in this world of Alien, and what would they be like if they come across this, the xenomorph. So I thought that was a good idea. I did say in my review I was a bit nervous that they were going to come across as like the Evil Dead remake sort of characters, like slasher teens where they're like just screaming and running around, but they're not. They fit in the world of Aliens. They feel quite mature. Obviously they're all sort of living their own lives, and a lot of their parents have passed away and stuff just through them working for Weyland, and they just want off the ship. And you know, I connected with them. Quite quick. Like I said, they're not the most you don't really get that much into the characters, but it gave me enough where I was like, right, these are our characters. I know what they're all about. I know what they want to do. Let's go.
Yeah, it's the only thing that I'm not getting on board with are these characters. Not Rain and Andy. That's not what I'm talking about. It's literally the rest of them. And I said it in my spoiler-free review. I wouldn't have such a problem with this if we didn't have such strong characters for the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
You know, this is the thing. Like, if we were in this sort of B-movie slasher, we need a bunch of like 8 kids here to like just be fodder. I'd understand, but we're not. Like, I think there should have been a bit more time and effort took with these characters, just to even make some of them a bit more unlikable or give them some different attributes and whatnot. Don't get me wrong. We get the one guy that we've all seen in the trailers, something in the water. He is a nightmare in this film, but interesting. At least he was interesting. He was an arsehole. I hated him, but like
there's a reason why he was.
There's a reason, yeah. And you later find out with him that his mum was basically left in a mine, and it was up to one of the androids to whether they were either going to save 7 people or save 3 people, and he chose to save the more people and leave the mum down there. So he's got like a grudge with these synthetics, which, you know, I enjoyed that. At least there was something there to like cling on to when it comes to the characters. But Yeah, so they all meet. We have this meeting with the characters, and they're all come together to decide that they're going to do a heist. Now, this is another part of the film that I really enjoy, the simplicity of the story, because I think it was really needed after the likes of Prometheus and
Mm-hmm.
Covenant. You know, God love Ridley Scott, but asking, you know, where mankind came from, the creation of mankind, and that Ridley, chill the hell out a minute. We just want to see Xenos kill folk. They plan to go and do a heist of this unmanned Wayland Corporation ship that's been deserted. Now, I love all this. I love the fact that there is this deserted ship up there. But there was a part of me thinking, how come they haven't went and sort of sorted this ship out yet? Why is it just up there? And they explain, I think it takes Wayland 6 months to actually get to that ship by man. So there is a bit of time for them to go up there, and they're stealing cryo tubes. Go on, Paul.
What one of the characters does say in it, we'll get to it, we'll try and get to it before anyone else does. So I don't think there's any part in the film, correct me if I'm wrong, where they say how long it's been out there. It might have only been like a day or two.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't know. But I get what you're saying. It's got like it's a little bit of a convenient, like a plot convenience sort of thing.
Yeah. Very, very slight nitpick, though. But we get to this ship, and it's like, holy shit, what has happened here? The tension and horror definitely is the most at its highest in this whole discovering. I think the ship is called, one half of it's called Romulus and the other half of it's called Remus. So it's like set in these like two sort of different halves of the ship. We get up there. We are searching for cryo tubes that are going to take us out to this this planet that they're trying to get to. I've forgotten the name of it, but the planet that they're trying to get to is not a Wayland planet. That's the whole reason why they're wanting to go there. It's an independent planet. We get to Romulus Remus and the discovery of this ship. Knowing fine well something's went down, and it's explained later on the reason why this ship is all like decrepit and deserted and that, because this is the ship at the start of the film, I think. So this is where they take Big Chap. What did we think about this whole sequence?
Do you know why we like Alien? Haunted house in space. Do you know what I like about the Romulus space station? It's a fucking haunted house in space, man. This thing was fucked up, man. And I was like, this is Alien, man. This is like the corridors, all dingy corridors with the yellow and black hazard tape, the yellow light. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is Alien. We are back on an alien ship that's been fucked up by an alien. Loved it, man. I'm a big fan of the Alien Isolation video game, and you have the Sevastopol station on that. This felt very reminiscent of that, where characters have gone onto it, shit's hit the fan, something's happened, they don't know why. We know. We sort of know what could have happened, but these characters have absolutely no idea, and I love that. I love that when you're ahead of the characters sometimes in some of these movies, where you're like, we know what's happened, but you fuckers don't know yet. But you're going to find out. Set design is fantastic. I love this location. I like that, like you said, the simplicity of it. They want to get up there. They want these cryo tubes because it takes like 9 years to get to the planet they want, and they need to sleep to get there. Just easy plot. Doesn't have to overcomplicate nothing. It's just let's go. Let's give us a reason why they need to go there. Let's go. Just the look of it was fantastic. Like I said, the designers of this film, I did the homework, and to a T. Like I was back in the world of Alien. There was nothing pulling me out going, oh, that's not really Alien. No, that doesn't work. Everything about it was like, yeah, we're there, man. Loved it.
Yeah. I'm jumping a bit forward into the film here, but it's later explained to, I think, Rain and Andy what has happened on this ship. And you basically get this shot. It's one of my favorite scenes in the entire film of Big Chap, where he's suspended in like, oh my God, I absolutely love this scene. I thought it was absolutely awesome. He's like
still with the harpoon through it.
Oh, yeah. So one interesting thing that this film does is deal with acid blood really well. Probably is the best we've ever seen it dealt with in the entire franchise. And I'm not just talking about the zero gravity scene. I'm actually talking about this is the reason of the destruction of this ship. So yeah, Big Chap's been going around nailing everyone in there. But the reason why this ship is the way it is because when it was shot with the harpoon, all the acid blood had evaporated this part of the ship. And I don't think we've seen anything like that in the franchise thus far, where a ship's been completely annihilated because of the acid blood. But it makes sense for that to happen. So I thought that was magnificent. The fact that that this big chap from the first movie is such like a prevalent thing about this film makes it so good. And when we go and watch Alien now and go into Romulus, it's going to be so sweet.
What also I really like is the fact that they don't actually show us what's happened. A bit prevalent to what they do in Aliens. We go down there and we don't know what's happened. They don't really show us. They just tell us, and it's up to us to sort of fill in the blanks. Now, I will quickly say there is for anyone who gives a shit, anyone who reads comics, Marvel are releasing a one-shot Alien Romulus prequel comic. They haven't said what the story is yet. I am certain it's going to be a comic showing the destruction of what happened there. I'm sure that's what it's going to be.
Well, my next question was going to be, is the next Alien film going to be called Alien Remus? Do you know what I mean? And it shows you what the hell happened there. But your idea, I like that way better. Put it in a comic and let's just keep the train forward. But I don't really know where we go after this film. I don't know where we're going. I don't know where we could go in the timeline. I'm not really sure at this point. But anyway, Paul, I want to talk about the facehuggers in this film because I don't think they've ever been done as much justice as what they have in this film. And we get some extra lore when it comes to the facehuggers, which I really appreciated. Two main sequences. The one sequence that we've seen in the trailer a bunch, where they're in that red room and they're trying to get some batteries for the cryo tubes. Now, I think this room is like the temperature is really low. And when it starts heating up, they get the power to this ship going again. That's when these facehuggers in there start melting and they drop into the water. Something in the water. This sequence is brilliant, man. Really, really good. Because the whole time this is all bopping off with these facehuggers in this particular sequence, we've got Andy here, who's now rebooting. So he isn't being able to help them with the xenomorphs. We've got two young guys in here who are getting terrorized by the facehuggers. And I thought this sequence was excellent, absolutely excellent. And back to the bit where Andy starts rebooting and he comes back online and he catches that facehugger by the hand. I was like, this shit is gnarly, man. I love it. But then we get another sequence with the facehuggers that we haven't really seen a lot of, which I really liked. And it gives you a little bit extra lore when it comes to the facehuggers. So it's explained in this film that they latch on body heat and whatnot.
I was like, what are these things? Predators?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I loved that particular sequence where they're trying to go through this corridor. Now, I haven't played the Alien Isolation, but I've seen plenty of game footage of that game. This particular sequence reminded me of that because it's not really an action game, is it? It's like a low level sort of survival game, isn't it? Yeah. So I absolutely loved this scene. It was tremendous. We've seen the one bit where Andy in the trailer goes, run. And that is the sequence. And absolutely loved it, Paul. What did you think of the facehuggers in this film?
Well, I will say quickly, I loved the idea that we all know from these films that the Weyland-Yutani company, their whole goal is to get these things and mass produce them as bioweapons. And you see this here. They've got them on an assembly line, and it's like they're 3D printed or some shit. It's do you know what I mean? It's like an assembly line of them, and they're all in these bags.
Yeah.
I was like, and even Fede's come out and said that if you look at them, they are quite fast in the film, but if you look, they are sort of modified compared to the original one. So they've gone in, Weyland have gone in and sort of tampered with them to make them probably even stronger or whatnot. And I just loved. Something I noticed on this the second time around, no eggs in this film from start to finish. You don't see a facehugger egg once in the whole film, not once. And I was like, that's great, because the idea that they've took these things and they're using them as they want them as bioweapons, and that's what they are. That's what they want them for. And like you said, then when they start, the room temperature goes up and they sort of come to life and fall out of their sort of sacks and they're just in the water. Some of the shots of them just jumping around, because every time we've ever seen a facehugger, apart from a couple of bits in Aliens, they sort of just on your face, there you go. But in this, man, they're sort of jumping around. The characters are evading them, smacking them out the way. Yeah, they're moving dead frantic. They're jumping, trying to hit the characters, but they're hitting the walls and then bouncing off the walls. I was like, whoa, these imagine that. Imagine being there. What the fuck do I do? They made them scary, man. They made them scary.
Yeah, I dare say, people, I think we probably get more facehugger action in this film than we do xenomorphs. But I wouldn't let that put you off, because they are probably the most intense sequences in this film are the ones dealing with the facehuggers. And I liked that you mentioned there, Paul, that they do look a little bit different. Now, one of the main issues I've heard people say about this film is the life cycle of the xenomorph and how quick it happens. To me, the way I'm not trying to defend the film or anything like that for this decision, because I know it's important when it comes to xenomorph lore and whatnot, the life cycle of it. To me, with how these facehuggers looked, and they looked so man-made, like almost a bit bigger. They had a different color about them, definitely as well. To me, the way they were getting grown in that place, to me, it was all man-made. So in my head, I'm trying to put the logic together that they've perfected the goo and stuff like that to a point where they don't need a 24-hour life cycle or anything like that.
That's a great shout, man. I've never thought of that. That's a fucking that's a shout.
Well, I was having a conversation with someone the other day about it, and then I mentioned that, and it was sort of a bit of a light bulb moment. I haven't heard this said anywhere else. The reason why I'm desperate to watch this film again is because we get the classic exposition dump in the middle of the film from Ash/Rook, who explains what they've been doing here. Now, in my head, that was it. The reason why this xenomorph goes from like that to that extremely quickly is because they perfected the goo and the organism and the facehuggers. I don't know whether it's said in this film or not. You can maybe correct me on this, Paul. But in my head, they are wanting these perfect organisms, as they like to say, because they want them to be workers in the mines so they can work more. Do you know what I mean? So like the whole thing at the start of the film is that these miners are falling like flies, man. They don't even get past like to a certain age by the looks of it, because our characters in this are pretty young. So you would imagine they'd have like younger parents that are not really at the stage where they should be falling off the planet at this point. But I don't know. I just thought with that exposition dump in the middle of the film, there was maybe an explanation to why everything's so rapid. But someone can call bullshit on that in the comments.
I don't think there's any explanation about why it happens so fast, but next time I watch it, that works. Like they don't explain it, but if you have got a problem with it, what you've just said completely works. Yeah, because the facehuggers on this aren't the ones from the original ones. They are mass produced and they have been tampered with. So they, like you said, it could be the fact that they've gone in and perfected a way so they can make the warrior xenos a lot faster, because they're going to want them faster, aren't they? If they want us to sort of make them. I didn't quite get the thing that they want them to be working from. There's a bit in the film, and I think Rook says it, where they want them, because they don't just want them as bioweapons. They want to use their DNA to perfect our own human evolution, don't they? So they're not just they're using them for all different things. They're all tampering with them. They want them all for different things. They want them for like weapons. They want them for warfare. They want them to, use to evolve humans further. But in my head, like how I sort of, because I did notice that, I was like, it's literally minutes in the film between the facehugger, the chest burster, and the alien. It's literally like 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I said in my review, I understand why they need to go there, because they cannot spend an hour like they do in the original film, because that's sort of the point of the original film, is you don't know where it's going, whether you know fully well where this is going, and they can't be spending so much time like trying to figure out what's going to happen, because they need to get the film going. So that's sort of how I looked at it. And in some of the other Alien sequels, it happens quite fast. I think it's only that first one where it takes its time to go, for obvious reasons, because of just how that sort of story's written. But I like that I like what you just said there, man, that it could be the fact that they've just mass produced these things and they've figured out how to get to the larger one a lot quicker. I love how they showed us in this the cocoon state between the chest burster and the alien, man, because we've never seen that before in anything. And no alien film has showed that before. We sort of just, in all these other films, sort of see the chest burst and then 10 minutes later, it's the full-grown Xeno. We don't know how it gets from sort of A to B, and this shows us in the most gnarliest way. Man, vile.
Yeah, it's basically just a giant vagina on the wall, guys. It's pretty spectacular, but very in keeping with HR Giga's designs and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? So, I love that scene. That was a quality scene where he's sticking the electrical prod in. Oh my god, man! One of the trailers before this movie had that xenomorph with the little gash in his head, and there was an electrical current in the top of his head. I remember saying to you the other day, I was like, mate, I thought these xenomorphs were going to have superpowers in this film. I thought that's what the crazy third act was going to be. But yeah, so moving on, I want to talk quickly about, we get our 0G scene in this film, and I think it's absolutely awesome. And this is when we probably get our most egregious callback line in this film. I'm with you, Paul. This is really the only callback thing in the film that I was like, yeah, that was horrible. That was not good in any way, shape, or form. I would have maybe preferred it if he'd have just said, get away from her, but not said bitch. Do you know what I mean? Because it does seem a bit bizarre.
You prick.
Yeah, I know. Just like it comes out of nowhere. One thing I'll give that particular line credit for is that I thought I had it pegged where that line was going to come in the film. And it's also the other callback as well, where Kaylee Spaney's coming out the elevator, and it's mirror image of Ripley and aliens coming out of.
I like that though. I really like that.
No.
Man. I was like, come on.
Oh, mate, absolutely loved it. I thought that was a badass shot when she was coming out of that elevator. Totally. That totally worked for me. It was just the line. I didn't mind the line that we got from, I think, is it Ashrook, where it's he says the line that Bishop has in Aliens, that he's not just synthetic is the word that he would like to use, not robot. I can't remember the actual.
Does it? Andy says, they keep calling him an android, and Andy says, I prefer the term artificial person.
You're right.
The Rook Ash callback line is, I can't tell you your chances, but you have my sympathy. And it is a bit of a, but I can imagine it's sort of, because they're androids, it's probably sort of like a line they have sort of programmed into them. They all say it, maybe, I don't know, but that line didn't get me. I was like, oh yeah, whatever, man.
then we've got like the other callback, which I did like, which is a straight up callback to Aliens, where Hicks is teaching Ripley how to use the pulse rifle, and we get a little scene of that in here as well. I didn't mind that. I didn't mind stuff like that. I'm probably sounding totally bloody hypocritical here as well, because all these like callback things that I did sort of have a problem with in Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm giving a pass for in here, but oh well, take that how you will, people. But
everyone takes them differently though. Everyone takes callbacks differently in every film and every franchise. Everyone's different. Some either work for you, some don't. It's always the same. Always the same. Doesn't matter what film it is. Doesn't matter the person. Some will work for others, and some won't for others. It's how it is. I bet you people out there, when they said "get away from her, you bitch," were like, "Yeah."
Oh, Gavin, 100%. I 100% agree with you there. Like there will have been 100%. But yeah,
myself, I was like, no.
No, there was not one single in the cinema when I was watching it.
I sort of just went.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fede didn't like that, by the way. Fede did not put that in the script. I'm not having that.
Paul, I think there's a bunch of shit in this film that Fede didn't want to be putting in, because let's just talk about this a second, right? This film even getting made, right? There was always going to be another one, because Disney were just like, yeah, it's a big IP. I think they've done a fantastic job so far with Alien and Predator. But all them years back, as we remember, Neil Blomkamp had a great idea for a pitch, a sequel to Aliens. Ridley Scott was like, no, that ain't happening, young sir. I'm putting a stop to that right now, because I've still got to answer the question of who created mankind. So we don't want Hicks and Ripley back. Thank you very much. So it shocked me when I learned that Fede Alvarez was going to be taking over the reins. Now, after watching it, I understand why Ridley Scott was so down for it, because I think there's a number of not studio mandated things in this film. I'm not talking about the callbacks. I'm talking about Ridley Scott coming in and saying, right, Fede, my pal, we're going to have to connect this to Prometheus and Covenant, whether you like it or not. Now, with this film, I don't know if you agree, Paul, your mileage is going to vary with how much you like it, depending on which Aliens films you like.
100%.
Yeah. So beforehand, we were all, they were telling us to watch Alien and Aliens. Whereas, like I said up top, really what you want to be watching, 100% Prometheus is, you need to watch that film. I'd say watch Prometheus before Aliens when you're going to be watching Alien Romulus, because that goo really connects. Alien Covenant, you could probably get away with not watching, but Prometheus is an absolute. And I've seen some people online say, oh, you could do with watching Resurrection. Now, not really. You only need to watch Resurrection to understand the third act a little bit and what they were maybe going for there, because it's an updated version of the third act. But before we get to that third act, the 0G scene in this film, Paul, what do you think of it? Because we saw a lot of it in the trailers. Now, for me, I really enjoyed it, but I almost think they could have went a little bit harder in this scene, a little bit. Visually, it looked great, but I wish we had some cannon fodder still left so they could just float through this acid blood. I wanted to see that as a visual. Do you know what I mean? But that whole sequence with the elevator and the 0G, this is like one of the highlights of the film. This is the most when it's reminiscent of Aliens. What did you think of the 0G scene in this, Paul?
Yeah, man, loved it. I'll quickly jump back to the pulse rifles, because that's sort of prevalent to the scene. Love that we got pulse rifles. I know that's sort of like we need to get the pulse rifles in there. But I was just like, let's go, let's paint them white. These are different pulse rifles. These have got auto aim assist.
Yeah,
this is video game pulse rifles. But in the end, I was like, why the fuck don't the Colonial Marines have these versions? Because these ones are a lot better than the ones they have. But yeah, I love that they brought the pulse rifle back. It is a staple in the Alien. It is for me anyway, a staple in the Alien franchise. It's one of the best weapons in cinema. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just the look of it, the design, the noise, everything. And when that thing's firing off in the movie, man, I was like, oh, that is a lovely noise. I love that noise. And I love the update that like give. We've seen it in Aliens. Let's do it a bit different. Let's give it a bit of auto aim. I was like, that's pretty cool. I quite like that. But the pulse rifle itself is prevalent to the scene, the G gravity scene, which is a highlight of the film. It's the Xenos are coming after them after they discover the hive. The Xenos are coming after them, and I think Andy says a joke. There's sort of like a running gag in the film that Andy tells like dad jokes, because that Rain's dad programmed into it to sort of make her sort of happy or keep her sort of peace or whatnot. And he tells a joke about gravity, and she's like, ooh, because that little scene at the start where the rats there's the rats floating about and that, it's like, I'll turn the fucking gravity off and these Xenos are going to be floating around. I'll just blow all their heads off. And it's a great scene. The gravity goes off, the Xenos are all floating, and then she's just letting rip with the pulse rifle, and you see it auto aiming. It's just fucking blowing the domes off, and acid's going everywhere. The aliens screech of the Xenos when they blow up is in there, and just all the little sound effects. I was like, oh man, yeah, this is fantastic. And then you see the acid blood sort of floating around in G, and they have to sort of float and navigate around it. It's quite a tense bit, because they say in the film, don't they, if once they get the pulse rifles, Andy's going, you can have them, but don't fucking fire them, because one of these things drops acid and we're getting sucked out of space. So that's how they sort of get around that, because it's just sort of floating in the corridor they're in. But it's a great scene. One of the best set pieces in the film, something we haven't seen before in Aliens. So it was something new and imaginative, and I loved it. Yeah,
same, agreed. I think it could have went a little bit harder, but that's my one little nitpick. The xenomorphs in this film in general, Paul, what did we think? Did we get enough of them? Was there enough action? For me, it is a slight negative I have with the film. It was light on xenomorph action a little bit, but I think there's a reason for that, because the more that fulfills the imagination and whatnot, the more we don't see on screen, gives you that horror, gives you the tension and whatnot. But it just, I thought, because they've done such an exceptional job here with the practical effects and whatnot of the xenomorphs, I just wish they were on show a little bit more.
It's weird because, like, I've said to a few people before this film come out, my head was running at 100 miles an hour, just in my head, kind of what I want to see in it, what I want this, I want that, I want that, and that. And, you know, they can only give us so much. And, you know, Fede House come out and said he wants it to mirror Alien and Aliens, wants to play in both them worlds. And I feel like he does that in here, because we do get the xenomorph and it's hidden. We don't know where it is, and it's hiding in the shadows. And when we see it now and again, we're like, oh shit, there it is, sort of thing. So he does capture that. He captures that sort of tone from the first film. But then we get that corridor scene with the G gravity is sort of reminiscent of Aliens, where there's a bunch of them. I don't think I wanted like fucking hundreds of these things running around, because I think it would have been too over the top. The amount of how many in the film fit the story of the film, because probably a lot of people got sucked out when Big Chap got acid and the hole in the ship, and everyone sucked out, and probably the rest. And you see them in the hive, don't they? They have, you know, 4 or 5 people who have been chest bursters. So I'd probably say at best it's probably like 10 maybe Xenos in this. 10,
yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe a bit more, a bit less. I think that's enough. I don't think you needed hundreds. And even though in my head I was thinking, I think they're just going to have one in it, a bit like Alien. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad there were more. When I first watched it, I was like, I wish there was a bit more Xeno action. But I think second time round, just knowing where it was coming and how it went into play, I think there was enough there. I will also quick, before we get into the third act, that is the big fucking meat on the bones with this. I've seen a lot of people, there are people out there, Alien fans, that do not like Prometheus and Covenant. That doesn't exist to them. That's not canon. I like the way this movie tied them into the Alien canon without hitting it over your head with it. Do you know what I mean? So they go into that room and the black goo's there. And that's where you said the exposition dump with Rock, when he's basically telling you what it is in quick sort of bullet notes, but just to get you up to speed. If you've not seen Prometheus and Covenant, it's a black goo. The Weyland, I think he even says that Peter Weyland died getting in the Prometheus program. I think he says that in the film. And it's basically something that they're using with the Xenos to sort of perfect human evolution. That's all you needed to know. So I think Fede did a good job of pleasing both fans, where if you're not a fan of their movies, you don't need to have seen them. This gives you enough. But if you do like them, and we're never getting that third part off Ridley, we're never going to see that. This sort of bridge, you know, sort of gives a little bit of closure to them films, to how it ties back into the Alien movie. So I did like that.
Mate, unbelievably clever the way he's managed to, you know, because this film's obviously set in between Alien and Aliens. Like you say, he's done it quite naturally, I've found, like bridging them two together. I don't know whether it was a Fede choice. I think Ridley was like, yeah, we're going to have to try and salvage this somehow, make a connection. But I am a fan of Prometheus for all of its faults and stupid characters. I
think it's a bit like how you know, Disney, when they bought Star Wars, they were sort of we don't want to talk about them prequels, but we'll nitpick little things from it to please fans. I think that's sort of what they've done here, because Disney now owns these properties and they want to cash off on them, even if people don't like them. They're all on Disney Plus, you know, in the Alien catalog. When you search Alien, Prometheus and Covenant come up, so they want them there as part of the canon. So
canon.
Yeah, the canon. If you don't like it, unfortunately, it's the same. It's the same. You can look at it like Star Wars. If you don't want them to be canon, you don't have to. You don't have to have the prequels of Star Wars to be canon. If you just want that first 3 films, you know what I mean. You can sort of pick and choose.
Yeah, absolutely. But mate, let's get into the most divisive thing about this film. Right. Before we get into it, what did you think this third act was going to be? Because I'd seen some chatter, not spoilers or anything like that. There was just like the brief Twitter quote saying the third act is nuts and it's going to make or break something. My mind immediately went, oh, right, it's going to be a big fucking queen, like, and that's what we're going to be doing. My God, we may even see a bloody power loader doing a load of CGI backflips here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought that's one angle that we were going to go down. Then my other angle was what I mentioned earlier on, that I thought the legit xenomorphs were going to have electrical zapping powers. My God, I'm glad that didn't happen. Mate, I was going all over the place. I was thinking, is David making another appearance here, and he's going to be the big villain of the show, like of this third act or whatever? What's happening? What did you think the third act? Before we get into it, what did you think it was going to be before you saw it?
I thought a couple of things. I thought it was going to do something to bridge the gap between this film and Aliens. Wow, we get back down to LV-426. I thought it was going to do something to do with that. And we see like Hadley's Hope or something. I thought that's where I thought maybe the third act was going to go. Just idea, you know, like I said, your ideas, what you want from the film or what you'd like to see, they're just going around your head as you're sort of leading up to these films. Another thought or idea I thought they might have gone down was we're going to see a completely different version of a xenomorph we haven't seen before, something very comic booky, maybe something with like fucking wings or some weird shit, like just something just something completely different to what we've seen before. It's still an alien, but just a complete different thing we've just never seen on screen before. Didn't think it was going to be what we got. Did not think that at all.
Right. I absolutely loved this third act. This is, for me, this is the part of the film that shocked and had me in the most awe of the entire film, because I think this is when it turns into a bit of a Freddy film. I think it's got a little bit of Evil Dead in there, with a little bit of Don't Breathe, with the chase aspect to it. So we basically get to the third act of this film. It's announced earlier on in the film that one of our characters is pregnant. Okay. So we're at the end of the film. We think credits are about to come up any minute now. We're getting in the cryo tubes. One of our actresses is pregnant, like we said, but she has infected herself with the black goo of Prometheus. Now, she does this to try and, like, she's injured at the time, and she does it to try and mend herself, because they do mention, remember with that rat, it was injured, then it came back to life, sort of thing. It maybe could do the same thing to me. So she injects it herself when she's on her own. We forget about it for a little bit. Then there's an alarm going off on this cryo tube. We open it up. Now, earlier on in the film, she's pregnant, but she hasn't got a bump. Now we open the cryo tube. There's a big fucking bump there, Paul. And oh my God, we get the third birthing scene of the year. What is this? What's this all about in 2024? We had immaculate, gnarly birth scene. We've got The First Omen, and now we've got Alien Romulus. I don't know which one's my favorite, but that is a weird thing to say. Anyway, she births this egg, right? So my jaw's on the floor at this point. I'm like, all right, where are we going here? Initially, what I thought it was going to be in this split second when the egg comes out, I was like, oh, this is going to be like, in Prometheus, when Elizabeth Shaw goes for a C-section and she has that squid inside her. I thought, here we go. It's going to be another bloody squid.
In my head, this is showing us the origins of how we get a queen alien. That's where my head went straight away. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good shout. I wasn't thinking that at the beginning. I was just shocked about where we were going with this actor currently. This egg comes out, and then you just see a glimpse of this face in this egg, and it almost looks like a human baby at this point. But you're like, does that look a little bit like an engineer? Well, I'll let that fly. I'll let that fly. Then we get the discovery, Paul, of the newborn 2.0. Jesus Christ. So it is definitely a callback to the newborn from Alien Resurrection, but I think it's a little bit more than that, to be honest. I think this is the entire franchise encapsulated in one creature design here, and I never, ever, ever saw it coming. And personally, for me, with how gnarly this thing looks, to just tee you up, it's got like an engineer head with a xenomorph elongated body, but human skin. This thing is
and a tail.
And a tail and metal silver teeth. Mate, I was all aboard this creature design. I was like, Jesus, Freddy, you crazy son of a bitch. Take my money now. It got into more body horror than I was expecting this film to ever go. Prior to this film, I was really happy. I was maybe let down a little bit by that elevator scene. Not the elevator scene, but the fact if it was going to be our last final third act. Because I was because I was a little bit like, oh, we didn't really get that much Xeno action here. So if these credits are going to fly up in the next 5 minutes, I will be a bit disappointed. And mate, it took this film from like a 3.5 to a 4 stars, legitimate. This is fucking nuts, crazy, very reminiscent of the first Alien movie, like getting herself in a spacesuit and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. I get that. But as far as this creature design goes, we haven't seen this before. This is something entirely new to the franchise. So we're 8 films into this franchise now, and we're still managing to breathe new life into it. Paul, I thought the third act was absolutely amazing. And like I said earlier on, you know, your mileage is going to vary with what Alien films you like. I'm a big fan of Resurrection, guys. I like the campy nature of it. I like that it's just harkening back to the group dynamic of Aliens. I think it's great. Alien 3, a little bit bleak for my taste, so I'm a fan of Resurrection, and I am a fan of how bloody freaky and deaky it gets at the end of Alien Resurrection. Similar to how it does here, but I've got to say I much prefer this design than I do to the newborn in Resurrection. And also a little callback here, it almost gets took out the same way as the newborn in Resurrection. But Paul, what did you think of the most divisive scene in this movie, and probably the entire franchise?
Yeah, man. Right. So yeah, like I've seen this film twice now. The first time this was happening on screen, I was sort of just like, my mouth was on the floor. I was like, what is going on? Where are we going? What is this? This is not what I wanted. This is not what I asked for. What's this? What's this, Fede? This is not what I wanted in my third act of this movie. How dare you not do what I want in in your own film? It threw me for a loop, man. For that reason, that is why it threw me for a loop, because it subverted my expectations. It went somewhere that I did not want the film to go. Didn't want it to go. It's not where I thought it was going to go. And I said this in my review, sometimes when a films subvert my expectations, and sometimes I love it, sometimes I don't like it. When I feel like I don't like it, I feel like I'm pushing back against it. I'm like, no, that's not what I wanted. Who am I to say where the film should go? And like you said, we are 9 films deep now, 9 films deep.
Yeah.
And I've seen people out there, oh, we should have had the Queen Alien. We should have. Why? We've got that in the next. Like, we've seen it. Wait. It's almost as if to say, like, what you want isn't necessarily what you actually want, because when you get that, if it's not as good as what they did in Aliens, you would have been pissed off. Yeah. If you would have got that big Queen Alien finale with the power loader again, and it wasn't as good as what they did in Aliens, which I don't think it would have been, you would have been like, yeah, no, they fucked it up. Fede wanted to put his stamp on this franchise, and he did it in a way that it feels, like you said, like Fede Alvarez, his fingerprints all over that. It feels very Evil Dead. It is very nasty. It's fucking sci-fi horror. Very sort of Evil Dead, sort of Resident Evil, Dead Space. It is this weird looking creature that you don't really get much glimpse of, and it's in the shadows, and it looks gnarly as hell. There's a bit when it comes face to face with Rain, Kaylee Spaney's character, and it grins at her, and it's fucking creepy, man. It looks like Freddy Krueger or some shit.
Yeah.
It was ballsy. It was a big swing. I can understand why people don't like it. It didn't bother me on the second time round, because I knew where I was going. And when I watch it again and again and again, I'll be like, well, this is where the film's going. So, you know, it won't bother me. But the first time I watched it, I did push back against it a bit. And I was like, oh, this has gone somewhere I did not think it was going to go. But I commend Fede for doing it. I commend him for thinking outside the box, giving us something we haven't seen. Because, like I said, if people... This is sort of like a greatest hits movie, and if it really ended with just everything we've just seen before, then the question is, would have come up as, what the fuck was the point? Like, what was the point? Like, and he probably thought that as well. He's like, I'm not just going to rehash everything I've seen before. What the fuck's the point? If I'm going to come in, I want to do something different. And he did it. And it is a gnarly third act. It's balls to the wall. It's scary. It's by far the scariest part of the film. It is when it is at its sci-fi horror the best, when it's doing something you've never seen before. Because when you're watching alien films, you don't really get scared of them. Let's be honest. They're not horror as in like, oh my god, I won't be able to sleep tonight. But that creature was fucking nightmare fuel, like visually. And it was it was at the point in the film where it was pushing the horror as hard as it could go for its age rating. I liked it. I didn't love it. I still don't love it, but I commend Fede for what he did here and doing something new that we haven't seen before. And it will grow on me, and it will get to a point where after I've seen this film over and over, it'll just be, well, that's the end of that's the third act of the film. But it is dividing people. I can completely understand why, but I'm a sort of person, if it's dividing people, I like to listen to other people's, good and bad, and I can change. If you don't like it the first time, you might like it the second time. It might work for you. It happens with films all the time, especially for me. I can leave a film, go, I hated that, watch it again a year later and go, what the fuck was I talking about? I love that. And I feel like this third act, that'll happen with me over time, especially if they maybe expand on it a bit in further sequels.
Yeah, it's like if someone had asked me beforehand, I'd have just never, ever, ever have give you any sniff of that ending. I'd have went to 1,000 places else. So it was just a really nice feeling in the cinema, being like, this is something I've never seen before. This is great. This is fantastic. I do like the design of it. I think it's like really, really fucked up in many ways. It's funny. I was speaking to Badger the other day, and he said, "How come Neil Marshall came in with the descent of like the last 20 minutes?" I was like, "Are you trying to make me like this film not anymore? Like you're selling it to me even more." There,
yeah. And the thing is, right, like it's the title of the films. It's Alien. Alien doesn't necessarily mean the xenomorph. They can go in different directions. You can't make 20 of these films and just be like Xeno, Queen. You need to think, if you want to continue it and you want to surprise fans and get new fans in and show you something we haven't seen before, you need to do new things. And I think people will come around to it. I do. I think it just threw a lot of people for a loop, and there was a reason it was kept under tight wraps.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I saw this day one and that didn't get spoiled for me or anything like that. But yeah, I'm just wondering where they take this next. Because we're definitely going to get a sequel to this film. Is it another prequel sort of type situation, do you think? Or where do you think we go with this? You're more versed in the lore and stuff like that, comic books and whatnot.
I think keeping it between 1 and 2 won't work. Again, I think that's a sort of one-hit wonder sort of thing, because there's only so much story you can tell between them two films. It's a big time period. It's like 57 years.
Yeah.
But there's only so many times you can have these Xeno attacks happen before the events of Aliens becomes a bit sort of redundant, how the story's told. Do you get what I mean? Where they do it in Star Wars, where they keep sandwiching all these stories between the original trilogy. Like I'm starting to find it hard to believe that all this shit happened before the story of that film took place. It just doesn't fit in my headcanon. Like Predator, I think Aliens is a good franchise where you can go in sort of any direction. You can go in any sort of, you can place it after 3, you can place it after 4, you can place it. But I mean, we've got the TV series coming out next year, which from Hulu and Disney Plus, which is set before Prometheus, called Alien Earth, which is just that title worries me. But
is it giving you Alien versus Requiem vibes?
Yeah. I don't want to see my aliens running around, no McDonald's or anything, man. You know what I mean? But there's so much, it's an expanded universe. There's so much story you can tell in different pockets of time periods. And, the Wayland Corporation is always going to be there. It's still prevalent there in Resurrection, even though it's a different company. And that's set like 100 years later. But they're still trying to do the same shit that Weyland-Yutani is trying to do. They want this organism. They want it as a bioweapon. So, like you said, I've read plenty of comics and novels, and they're all set in different time periods, and they all fit. Sometimes the headcanon does get a bit messy. As long as they can keep it in check with the movie so it doesn't become convoluted, I'm happy for them to go anywhere, man. But get the right director again. I'm not sure if Fede will come back. If he does, cool. But I'm in two minds where I'd like someone else to try and take a stab at it. You know, a bit like what they do with some franchises, like get a different director and let's see what he can do with the aliens. Get this guy and let's see what he can do with the aliens. Because I don't want. Go on, sorry.
I do like that, but just with this being such a homage to the rest of the franchise, and obviously we get now a last little 15-minute Freddy segment there in this film, I'd like to see if they were a bit more trusting with him in the next installment so he can really have a little bit more free reign. I would like to see what that does look like. I want Freddy to come back for this 100%.
Like Ryan Johnson had with The Last Jedi.
Oh,
we've seen how that went.
Maybe not.
But no, you are right. Like if they announce today, if it comes out in the next hour, sequel's coming out, Freddy's returning, I'm like, cool. Let's see what this guy can go. Let's see what he can go again. But yeah, I think they'd have to give him a bit more free reign because we've sort of had the reintroduction back now into the alien world. We've had the greatest hits. Let's see what else he can do. Let's see what he can come up with if you give him the time to get just let him focus on it and let him get a good script out there.
I am not going to lie. I would like to sort of finish this Ridley Scott trilogy. I'm not saying for Ridley Scott to come back, but I do just want sort of a cap on David's story. Because after just watching Covenant last night, David's on the way to a planet right now with 2,000 colonists and 2 facehuggers. What the hell does that look like at the end of that? So, yeah, I'll be here for it. I'm fully prepared as well. If Eddie wants to come back, you can put a power loader in this one, though, in the next one. See how that looks in 2024.
I would like to see another Colonial Marines story. I would like to see because
just them involved.
There's room for that again. There's room to bring them back. People probably complain about it, but I'd love to see the next one. You know, I'd say this one is more alien horror than Aliens. I would like to see another one jump back into that action side of things because they are the 2 Alien fans, aren't they? You got the horror ones, you got the action ones, and I've seen a lot of the action ones say they wanted more from this, and you can give them that. We can go again. Give them more.
I think it's a nice even splice, this film. When they say it is that, like half of Alien, half of Aliens, it is that. Then it throws a bit of spice at the end, third act there that no one saw coming.
Oh, and if Fede wants to direct a Dead Space live action movie, yeah, there's your man. There's your demo. That third act, your demo for a Dead Space live action movie.
100%. I'd absolutely love to see that. And I just want to mention as well, little tidbit here. He was getting interviewed recently, and the interviewer asked him about Alien versus Predator and if we could ever see that. And me and Paul were speaking up front about this up top. And mate, I would like to see them give that another crack, but that is just the fanboy in me. Do you know what I mean? Like I am partial to the first AVP film. It's lit way too light, but are you telling me that awesome third act battle between the Queen and the Predator isn't fucking awesome? Yeah, it's unreal. He actually said his pitch for that, which I found interesting. It would be a grindhouse situation. So a lot like what Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did back in 2007 with Death Proof and Grindhouse. He was mentioned that him would direct like the first half of it. Then Dan Trachtenberg, who's just directed Prey, would direct the second half of it. Folks, I would like to see it happen. There's plenty, as Paul said there, plenty of material for them to go back and source from, but would you want a new Alien versus Predator film, Paul?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I'm a fan of the AVP stuff, man. Like not necessarily the movies, but I'm a big fan of the comics, the video games. I've always loved that world where and they mix so well together. The Xenomorph and the Predator they just work, man. And throwing some Colonial Marines in there, like let's go. Get the right directors in. Give Fede, give Trachtenberg it. Let's go. Let's sort of, I'm not gonna say erase the original AVP movie because there are fans out there and I can have fun with it, but it wasn't particularly what I wanted from an AVP movie, especially as I got older and started revisiting it. I was like, yeah, this isn't what I wanted really. But it's there. The blueprint's there. They could make a massive movie out of that if they put the money behind it, get the right script down. It could be the first, a bit like video game movies that we're having a resurgence. It could be a great resurgence of versus movies. They do come across as hokey sort of money makey sort of movies, but do it right.
When these two have had so much history, is what they have though. Oh, this
Mhm.
makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I'd absolutely love to see it. But I just want to end this conversation and this spoiler discussion with just saying, mate, I'm just in such a happy place when it comes
Mhm.
to Alien franchise and the Predator franchise. Two franchises that mean a lot to me and you, like the big IPs that we love. And I'm just, the sweat that was pouring out of me when I found out Disney were acquiring these IPs and whatnot. I
Crazy,
was like,
right?
oh shit, what is going to happen here? They're doing an exceptional job. We just maybe need to leave the callbacks at bay a little bit and let's try something new and fresh. But can't wait to see what's in store from Disney when it
Mhm.
comes to this franchise. But Paul, have we got anything else to say on
That's a
this
line I never
movie?
thought I'd hear anyone say. I'm excited to see what Disney does with Aliens and Predator. But you're right. Disney get a lot of flack, especially between movie
Yeah,
fans and
they-
online discussion. They get a lot of flack when they've just made two. They've just revitalized two dead franchises back to back. Double punch, man. Prey and Alien Romulus, both stellar movies. Both
yeah,
not perfect, but it's in the right direction, man. It's what fans wanted, and fans are happy. I'm happy. I'm glad these franchises are back. These are up there like Star Wars for me, like Terminator and that. They're part of me. These franchises, and to walk out of the Prey and the Alien Romulus, just happy that they've done it right. Like again, not perfect films, but I'm in a happy, like you said, I'm in a happy place. I'm looking forward to the future, what they do. But let's Disney are so known for just planning ahead. They just go full steam ahead. They see the money and they're like, let's go, let's go, let's go. You take your time. Don't be just throwing out anything. Don't be giving us AVP next year because these two movies have made money. You know what I mean? Like let's get some more good Predator movies out there. Let's get some more good Alien movies out. And then we can talk AVP. But yeah, solid movie. Really enjoyed this. Preferred it a lot more second time. Some of the problems I had with it first time around, they're still there. Didn't bother me as much second time around. Just a great sci-fi horror blockbuster movie. We're back.
We're back, baby. Anyway, guys, this has been our spoiler discussion for Alien Romulus. Please check out both of our non-spoiler reviews if you just want to check that out. Paul, where can the good people find you? Have you got anything for us this week?
So you find me. I'm presuming my good friend Alice here will leave a link down below. But if you can't find me here, there's my name there. Just search that in YouTube. Hopefully that should come up with my channel because it is just called Pull Times. I've recently just discussed all the Alien movies, excluding AVP. I've just done from Aliens Covenant. They're all up there, reviews for all their movies. Just done a spoiler-free one on Romulus. I'm debating doing a ranking this week. I'll see if I get the time to do it. Not too sure yet. A new Crow movie is coming out. I'm debating reviewing the original one first, sort of getting some traction going on the Crow. I'm thinking about doing Gladiator as well, Gladiator 2, Joker. There's a lot of good films coming out that I'm looking forward to, so there'll be a lot of videos coming out on all that good shit.
Cool, man. I'll look forward to seeing it. Yes, I will leave a link to Paul's channel down in the description below. I will have a ranking coming out at some point this week, guys. It is edited and ready to go, but I do need to add Romulus in there. I'm still deciding where it's going to go. I might piss a few people off. We'll see. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.